Hello traders, Rich here and welcome to a new episode on how to analyze any chart from scratch without using any indicators, just by applying basic price action concepts and market structure 101. So let's get started, and as usual, cheers. Today we have episode number 40, which is an index, this time US 100. If you aren't familiar with the series, don't worry, I'll make sure to attach the entire playlist, which includes all the videos by order, in the description below. And I also attach my Telegram channel, where I forward the analysis and videos from TradingView and YouTube, in case you want to get notified. So let's do it. For those who already know, we always start from the higher time frames, daily and weekly, to know where we stand in the market. Are we overall bullish, bearish, or stuck inside a range? And as price approaches these rejection areas, we'll be zooming into lower time frames to look for setups. So as price approaches the upper bound, we'll be looking for sell setups. Vice versa, as price approaches the lower bound, we'll be looking for buy setups. We've got three types of rejections. The first one is a typical supply and resistance, where we have many failed attempts to break above or below a certain area. A non-horizontal supply and resistance, also known as a trend line, channel, wedge pattern, and so on. Last but not least, we've got supply and demand zones. So when we have an aggressive movement upward from a certain area, that's a demand, and as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for buy setups. Vice versa, we have a supply zone when we have an aggressive movement downward, and as price approaches it again, we'll be looking for sell setups. So let's do just that on US 100. Since it's an index, so it has been trading in the same direction for a long period of time, you can't really find many support and resistance. For example, like in a forex chart, you will be able to identify multiple swings, right? However, we can't really find any here because it has been trading higher and higher, so not forming multiple swings lining up together to form a horizontal line. That's why we go for round numbers, which is a horizontal level, a psychological level, whatever you want to call it. So US 100 is trading inside this chart. We can see that the lowest point around 3K. Of course, you can zoom more, but like we don't really need it for now. And the highest point is around 17K. So the strongest ones are, of course, 5K, but I will not draw it because it's down there. We've got the 10K, which is a very strong, which is like maybe the strongest one inside this chart, And the second one is obviously the 15K, which is around here. And as you can see, price respected it. It was acting as a resistance, broken upward, now support, broken downward, now resistance, right? Next, we've got the 20K, but I will not draw it. It's like very far from now. And inside these ones, we've got like the mid ones, which is obviously 12.5K, 17.5K. Let me draw it. Here we go. And we've got the current all-time high, which is around 17K. I will draw it because it's currently a supply zone, as we had an aggressive movement down from it. We also got a supply zone around, let me make it a little bit lower like this, so 16.5. I'll do it like this because it's a supply zone. We also got a supply zone here, but I will not draw it to make the chart clean. Like I usually draw it as a zone, but I will not, as we already have the 15K. So we already got a rejection around this area. So that's how clean your chart is. That's how, like, you know where you are in the market just by drawing the round numbers. And if you zoom in a little bit to focus on the current price action, we can see that the price is currently stuck inside this big consolidation, right? So broken upward, rejected it, traded higher, now broke below the previous low and the minor low here, traded lower, and we had a classic retest and then traded lower again. Right, so we are currently bearish from a long-term and medium-term perspective, because we've got this one from a medium-term, this one from a long-term, a classic retest, and it traded lower. So now we might see a correction, and then we might see a drop lower. But for the bears to take over from a long-term perspective, we'll still need to see a break below this area, which is the 12.5, previously act as a resistance, support, and it's covering the entire structure, which we saw here, like a giant head and shoulders pattern. So if this one is broken downward, then it wouldn't be good for US 100, and the movement even lower to around here, which is a demand 11K, and then the 10K, which is our next round number. But for now, let's take it step by step, right? Inside this range, approaching the 12.5K. So for now, we are looking for buy setups. We were bullish previously. We can see it even better from daily time frame. And I made an analysis for this one previously many times that we were bullish, right? We can make an offset for it like this, bring inside this channel, then price broke below the previous low, which is here, the major one, and the double top here, and price also broke below the trend line and this high, which we can see even better or bigger from H4, but like this view is already enough. All right, so broken downward, then broke below the 15K, retested it multiple times, and here as well. Okay, so now from market structure perspective, we are clearly bearish, and to like draw a channel that engulfs this overall movement downward, we can draw this one. We were bullish, now we had a shift in momentum, we are currently bearish. Let's make an offset for it. This is it, right? So like this is how you see or you feel the overall direction. As mentioned previously, want to know where we are in the market, and then look for sells, look for buys, and so on. So long story short, just from daily, as price approaches the upper bound, we'll be looking for trend following sell setups because we are bearish. And as price approaches the lower bound, lower trend line, and which also is the 12.5K zone. It's not a laser level, it's an entire zone. We'll be looking for buy setups. So for now, if you want to take it step by step, approaching a support, we'll be looking for buy setups. Let me make this one appear on lower time frames. Let me make sure. Fantastic. So while looking for buy setups, that's how you know where you are in the market. That's how you know what you are looking for. Now, if you zoom into lower time frames, you can see that like this big swing, like we can find multiple swings inside it and on lower time frames. Here's an example. So that's a big swing right up. We've got the low here, broken downward, and now starting from here, we are now bearish. Of course, rejected the 15K, traded lower, and now we are bearish. Price is making lower highs and lower lows, and as you can see many times, failed to break above the previous high and kept making lower highs, right? So big impulse, a high here, as you clearly see, failed to break above it. So technically, for now, that's our last high, forming like a double bottom. Reverse head and shoulders, we can't really know because it's still like moving. So technically, that's our last high. For the bulls to take over from a medium-term perspective from H4, we'll need to see a break above this area, okay? So we are bearish, waiting for the bulls to take over around the support to trade higher, just like we did previously around this area. We are bearish, approach the lower area, like which we didn't have this one yet because we didn't draw it yet, all right? But you've got the idea. Approach a support area. Let's say we have a support here, broke upward, trade higher, approach the resistance, broke below the previous low, traded lower. So we are following the same logic. Now we are waiting for the bulls to take over to buy. Meanwhile, as US 100 approaches this lower area, which is a support, which we saw from higher time frame, from daily, we'll be looking also for buy stops on lower time frames. And on H4, we can even draw what? We can even draw this trend line here, right? Let's make it in red because we already got blue there. So here we go. So that's a channel the price is expecting. It's just also for overall direction, which also lines up perfectly with the upper or last swing high. So as price approaches this area, it will be the intersection of the lower red trend line, lower blue trend line, and the 12.5K, where we'll be zooming into lower time. We can't really zoom in now because we won't really find much, right? Of course, inside the big swing, we've got multiple swings broken upward, and so on. So for now, this is the last like minor high from 30 time frame, of course. So as price approaches the lower area here, we'll be looking for buy stops. For example, just like a high broken upward like this, for example, we can buy on break upward. And from a medium-term perspective, we need to see a break above this area. Okay, and here for the bulls to take over, we need to see, sorry about that. So we need to see a break above this area here. Meanwhile, we can still trade lower and lower to approach the support before the bulls finally take over. Of course, we need to look for any bullish reversal setup, but I can't really like predict what might happen here. We don't predict. We just wait for the market to make the first move and then react accordingly. So that's basically it. As a quick recap, from daily time frame, approaching this support area, looking for buy setups, unless it's broken downward, then the bears would take over from a long-term perspective. So medium-term perspective, check, bears are in control. Long-term perspective, check, the bears are in control. If they break here also, this would become a resistance and we'll be looking for sell setups on the retest of it. We'll still have this channel in blue, right? It would mean a break and then a sell on the retest. For now, until this break happens, we would be bullish, but not bullish, around the support, looking for buy setups here around the lower band, and then we'll be looking for sell setups here until eventually this channel is broken upward, and then like the long-term bullish trend would like resume. It would be like a big impulse move, a big impulse movement, a correction, then following by the next big impulse movement. But for now, let's take it step by step. That's it for US 100, and I'll see you in the next episode.